Super.
I'm very excited because like when it comes to the testing grounds, we have like a little bit to kind of get through. We want to kind of go over the previous testing grounds that we had, what we kind of learned from it. So, Stefan, why don't you go ahead and start us off? What did we kind of learn from the recent testing grounds, and where do you kind of see things playing out?
Perfect. We got a bunch of cool stuff coming at the start of the Tempest season. Some of the things will come from the testing ground. Some of it will not come at the start of the season and will be delayed to another testing ground. We'll talk about that in a moment. And then there's a couple other cool improvements that we're going to see also at the start of the season.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, so we're gonna kind of go over just like a little like rundown of what we're gonna be talking about today. We're gonna talk about some of the Orochi improvements and where the team is kind of looking at taking him once ready for live. We're also gonna talk about some Raider improvements because I have seen a lot of Raider threads over on Reddit and Steam, and I know there are some questions that the community would like to have answered. And then we're also going to get into option selects, another thing we also had on the testing grounds.
Those are sorry, the big three that came from testing grounds in the previous season. Shinobi has a number of cool things in it and a number of things we need to fix. So that's why it's going to go to another testing ground. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But the others are going to go live with some fixes.
Very, very exciting. I'm really excited. I'm also really excited to see what we're doing for Shinobi V2 as we're kind of dubbing him here. But yeah, freaking Orochi Raider coming to. You also said option selects as well, right?
Yep, all the cool stuff is here.
All of that awesome stuff will be launching and coming. Very excited. We're also talking about sticky dodge, crash charge changes, a couple of other things as well. But yeah, that becoming with Tempest. Let's go ahead and get into what we will be discussing for this new testing ground, season 19. There's going to be a lot of really cool things. So let's start off with Orochi. Let's get into some Orochi details. What can you tell us?
Awesome. Super high level. I just want to say thanks to everybody who participated in the previous testing ground, filled out the survey, played, killed people, got killed by people, all the good stuff. We need your feedback. And this is why you're going to see some of the improvements that are being made to both Orochi and Raider that are going live with the testing ground improvements, and also why we'll see Shinobi at the end of this in the next testing ground. The loop is basically we require your input and your help to make things happen. So you're going to see some results of that today.
Awesome. Now let's now JC, why don't we go ahead and get into some of the good stuff about Orochi, some of the things people liked, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, Orochi, I think from what we got from the surveys and what we've seen from the community, was by far the most well received one out of the bunch that we had. People were super hyped. There was a lot of really, really good stuff. The main point that we got, I think I saw it on Reddit like a million times, is dodge cancel timing, right? So yeah, a lot of people were kind of unhappy at when you could dodge cancel out of stuff with Orochi. So we're going to go over it, but that was the main sticking point. We've also made some other changes based on feedback. So we're going to go through them one by one.
Sick, let's do it.
All right. So first up, we have dodge cancels, like I was mentioning, right? So it wasn't as effective in group fights as we expected. So on top of getting a lot of feedback, how it felt maybe like a bit unresponsive or not super good, the other data that we've gathered was that it wasn't as strong as we wanted to. So because of that, we've put it at 200 MS after every single recovery. It used to be at 333. So now at 200, it's a lot more effective. You can dodge out of stuff. You can also still delay it up to a 333. So it gives you a bit more flexibility in how you can use it. Try to get some like meaty deflects and stuff. So that's kind of cool. And we also added the possibility of dodge canceling dodge attacks as well. We weren't able to before. We were a bit worried about a bunch of those things, like having people do dodge for its kick over and over and over again, for example. So now that we're a lot less concerned with that one specifically. So with this, we can cancel your dodge attack recoveries with other dodges. So that's pretty cool. I can't wait to see those anime things with that riptide into riptide into riptide. It's going to be kind of cool.
The main question I usually heard from people was like, why even did we make it at a later timing than it was on normal Orochi? And the main reason for that is because with the introduction of the kick, certain things would have been guaranteed at the old timings, like the 200 ms timing that you see here. So we've adjusted a couple other things to try to compensate for this, so you're not guaranteed to get a kick after something else.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that makes a big difference then too. All right. So other changes, right? So we also heard you guys, the Orochi's damage was a bit overtuned, was a bit too high, especially with all those combo lights. So now we've reduced the damage of most of Orochi's openers by 2. It kind of varies. Yeah, it doesn't sound like much, but it actually makes a bit of a difference. So that's interesting. The other really top requested feedback was that zone attack still felt a bit lackluster, was not super useful. You kind of like were stuck when you're using it. You had to dodge cancel. So it is now officially a chain starter. So we're going to have video at the end of this we can show you. But zone attack counts as an opener, so you can do dodge attack, zone attack rather, into combo light, into like dodge cancels, into top heavy finisher, into whatever you like. That's pretty good. We've also put light dodge attacks back to being light parries. They were heavy parries as kind of an experiment that we ended up like it wasn't as a bug. Yeah, right. So that's it. So we kept it at a heavy parries just so we were trying to do some things, but it turns out that it's a bit too strong for Orochi. He has really good dodge attacks like Riptide and stuff, extremely strong. So that's they're back to being light parries. So Orochis can just constantly side dodge light or Riptide and then never get punished for it. So that's pretty good. And last but not least, another thing that was brought up by a lot of players was that Wind Gust, which is the deflect punish, did not beat armored attacks, right? Uninterruptible stance is armor. So it did not beat it. So you couldn't deflect somebody and then do Wind Gust into armor and not beat them, kind of like what Valkyrie can do, for example. So now Wind Gust properly does that. So you're pretty much guaranteed your Wind Gust every single time you manage to deflect, which is really useful for Orochi. So we can have that video now for a zone attack if we want, Max. Yeah, Max is superstar. So yeah, we can see now that's it. So zone attack goes into top heavy finisher. You can do combo lights. You can do whatever you want. It basically is a chain starter.
That's good stuff. I definitely do think that having changing that's probably going to do a lot for Orochi. And as someone who's been trying to learn Orochi, I'm very excited to have kind of like more goodies to play with. But let's get over to Raider. Let's talk about Raider.
Raider is a big fan favorite, right? And I've seen a lot of feedback. I've received massive documents from some players in the community with what they'd like to see done to Raider. So yeah, we can get into it. Steph, you want to walk us through like a bit of the feedback and what we got?
Sure. I mean, a lot of it was quite well received. There's some questions about like, hey, should the Stampede charge really be a 500 ms, for example, which, I mean, Ben will talk about when we get to crashing charge as well. Armor timings, some of the chain rules that were a little, let's say, old school on Raider. It's like, hey, can I be a little more free on this character and effective with my armor?
Yeah. We'll see. I think the changes we're gonna have are gonna make some players, especially one specific guy, who, like I said, sent me like a huge Word document with like a university level dissertation of what to do with Raider. So I think that person should be quite happy with these changes.
I commend players that have the patience and the time to type long stuff like that. I've seen a lot of them.
Like, honestly, it
gets
was
read. I mean, like, people don't believe we read it, but I mean, if you get there and it gets on the front page, we're going to read it. So
yeah. And like, honestly, it like, I'm joking about it a little bit, but it was super appreciated. And so like, whenever we get like any feedback is good feedback, so we're always happy to take it and read it. And okay, so let's go through it, right? So first up, we have uninterruptible stance timing. Again, that's armor, so we got to be careful. So now we have armor at 100 ms on every chain heavy attack. A lot of the feedback we got from the previous timing was that Raider was really weak in group fights. He wasn't getting interrupted quite a bit. So with this change, it's a bit back more to what it's on live right now. It's a super tiny nerf to the heavy finishers that were at 0 MS, but otherwise, like at 100, it's still really good. You can still trade with dodge attacks. You can still do a bunch of different things with that. So that's really, really useful.
So just a quick little bit of info there is like we can't have it at 0 for rollback reasons. We can have it later. Honestly, I thought more people would be mad about it being earlier, but they want it earlier. So, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Sure.
All right. So next up, we have chain improvements, another big thing that people are going to be super excited about. So you can now do Raider's Storm to Raider's Fury, right? So you can do the full Raider copter as much as you want, whatever you like. But yeah, so that's really good. Another change that we haven't listed here, but that's important to note because that's another big feedback that we got, is that the Raider's Storm, which is the neutral zone, was costing 12 stamina. It's up to 20. Just because like it was super easy to get massive pressure when somebody was out of stamina. So we changed that a little bit, but there's compensation for it a bit further down the line, so we're going to be good with that. We also added new chain routes for Raider, another big requested thing. So Raider can now chain to his light finishers after his second heavy in chains. So you now have light, and heavy light as chain routes. Should help make him a little bit less predictable and have a bit better flow, and you're not forced to go into your heavy finishers or like your Raider's Sphere or whatever. And last but not least, Storming Tap now changed to the second hidden chains instead of chain to finishers. That's also another really big change. That's super useful for Raider because it lets him. You're not stuck whenever you used to land the Storming Tap. You would always go into your finishers, and those finishers were like, okay, I can't really keep going. So it was hard to use in chains, and you kind of felt forced to reuse Storm and Tap or whatever. So with this way, you can do Storm and Tap into a heavy, into like a zone attack or a light finisher or whatever you'd like. So that's really, really strong. We have a video for this as well, Max, if you want to play it.
Yeah, I feel so much better.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, so zone to zone, all right.
Zone to zone. Can we call that the storming storm?
Yeah, the stormiest storm to ever storm. Very fitting for Tempest.
Yeah, so you see we have like heavy into light and all those sorts of things. So it's super useful. He's really good. And with the change here, we see after a storming tap, he did like 2 heavies back to back. So that was quite interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Sick.
So yeah, it's real sick. It's really cool. Attack speed. So
more buffs.
Yeah, more buffs, right? That's one of the things, right? Like we didn't do that many. Like Raider was better in the testing grounds, but it was still a bunch of stuff that needed a bit further tweaking. So we're super confident with this. So speaking of compensations, I said earlier for Raider Storm being a bit costing more stamina, is we've sped up Raider's neutral heavy attacks. So top of your opener rather is now 900 milliseconds. It's your go-to light parry punish. And then the side of the openers are 800 MS. So you can use those as guard break punishes now. That's part of the intent, right? Where before you would always use your zone attack, and now it costs more. That was part of why it was costing 12 as well. So now with that back to 20, the side of the openers rather being 800 kind of helps making sure that you can actually land more damage in case you don't want to do Stampede Charge. And Raider's Fury is 966 milliseconds. That might seem like a slightly weird number.
I was going to ask about that. I'm like, it's a very specific number. Why don't you tell us what the reasoning behind it is?
That entire 33 milliseconds is the difference between landing a storming tap, going to Raider's Fury, and being interrupted or trading and not, right? So with this change, Raider can do storming tap into Raider's Fury. And if your opponent was mashing light to interrupt, not only will they not interrupt, it won't trade, and Raider is going to win every single time in this situation. So it looks like, oh my god, it's like 33 milliseconds, but that makes a huge difference on Raider. So that's really, really cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and then this is I think the last huge thing on Raider that a lot of people were talking about. Like I remember reading feedback from some of the pro players that I was seeing that they actually preferred trading with Raider's Fury, just because the recovery of a lot of his attacks was super long. So we did a pass on them, and they're now maxed out at 800 milliseconds. So it's not as like the ones that were faster, like for heavy finishers and light finishers and all of his light attacks, are still going to be 700 on hit block, but on miss and for his other attacks as well, they're maxed out at 800, which means that you should be frame advantage. You should have like much better control over Raider's attacks, and it should really help with his recoveries that were quite long. Some of them were like over a second, and so with this, it's a significant buff to Raider, to his group fight ability. It feels much better in 1v1 as well. So it's
There was one similar thread that came through for both Orochi and Raider. It's like whether it's on recoveries or chain rules or dodge timings on Orochi, it's like I want my character to feel good.
Yeah.
And then separately viability we talk about, but feel was a big one in this testing ground.
Yeah. So it's super important. So that's it for Raider. So we're going to look at the other changes now.
I do believe that one of these changes is option selects. Now, I was one of the many members on the community team that was keeping an eye on like option select kind of feedback. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I definitely do think the change on TG was very well received. A lot of players seemed like the game like breathed new life into the game, which is nice. So super excited. We're finally being able to get this into the live build, so players can play around and you know, not lose their matches, hopefully. But yeah, let's talk about option selects.
Yeah, okay. So option selects are in. So the improvements that we did on the testing grounds are going in as is. Including zone option select. I know some people are going to be a little bit disappointed that they liked it, and that it helped players defend in group fights. But at the end of the day, remove from this is the better.
I'm just watching Stefan like laughing and
Me.
yeah,
I thought you were
these guys.
editorializing. I didn't know I was. What? No.
Yeah.
No. It feels a little shocking at first. If you don't know what option selects are, don't worry about it. The only thing you need to know is that you were losing matches to people who knew what it was.
Yeah.
And the odds were very skewed against you. They weren't making reads. They were just screwing you with mechanics, basically. So that's removed, number one. Number two, will time to kill be too high for ultra top level play? We will see as time goes on. But the game is so much healthier, so much better. And Ben, you got me editorializing, but like, this is a good change. Everybody enjoy it, please. And if not, you know, you can
internally, we've been playing with this on for like a couple of months now, and I think nobody on the team that's been playing can say that the game doesn't like objectively feel way better.
It's
like,
scary at first, though. I mean, honestly, like we were scared even in our sessions and so on. But over time, you're actually like, it slightly changes the dynamics from defense to offense. But the games don't become like bizarre, broken because of it. It feels good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, got me ranting
what
here.
I noticed, like I thought like the good players would kind of be brought down to our levels because now they couldn't do all of the option select stuff. But really, if you're a good player at For Honor, you're still a good player even without the option select. So like, don't worry about that too much. You'll get adjusted to it, and you'll still be owning noobs just like before.
I mean, like honestly, all three of us get regularly bodied by PKLX and Nuke, so it's not like they're not good anymore, or you know, so it feels really good. One thing I want to add though is that the tech that we have to clear out option selects deals with the vast majority of them. There's one that I won't go into detail because it's like pretty complicated, that we got feedback on during the testing grounds that is a lot more complicated to use, that is not addressed by this, but we're going to address it in the further update. That we're going to look into it to make sure that it's also fixed in the future.
Awesome. Super excited to hear about that.
Oh,
is that
no
rally call?
Yeah,
rally call.
Is that like we're not doing that now, are we? Like,
is that
I thought
supposed
we were
to
going to
work?
wait a few years again.
I thought we're supposed to leave it busted forever, right? Like that was intended functionality.
Right? That's the joke.
Free
I like
in one of his videos that like we kind of teased it. No, we didn't really tease it. It was just, you know.
That was just, but yeah, I liked how Joss kind of went over it and skipped it because he got distracted. That was hilarious. I was like, yeah, chat is probably just going crazy right now, but we completely ignored it. So yeah, I didn't do it. Will in heaven did it for us. So he fixed rally call. So if
Just-
you're playing
just do a
Dal,
slightly different word.
he-
Everything's okay.
he's
Don't
not
worry.
he's not dead. He's not dead,
Don't
by the
worry,
way.
it's fine.
Okay.
So yeah, the rally call now actually does something. And we also did something to how it considers critical and very critical health. So now when you're below 50, it's going to activate, and it's not going to get better when you're at below 25. So it's an even better feat if it had worked all this time. And the Vital Leech also got the same treatment, basically. So look forward to getting that feedback into your feed selection on this hero and see how that feels.
Yeah, try it out one more time. If you've turned it off for 3 years,
Yeah.
it's time to try it out once more.
Give it a whirl.
Yeah.
Actually,
So yeah, no, these are all of the changes that will be launching with Tempest when it comes out on September 9th. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get into the new testing grounds.
Sorry, just before
Wait,
we still got more. There's more.
Two more.
There's
Two
more.
more.
Oh, but wait, there's more.
I thought it was gonna be a late season 2, but I was proven wrong as well. So check this one out. Sticky dodge.
yeah. So sticky dodge, right? So if you don't know what sticky dodge is, you probably have experienced it, but you didn't know what was going on. It's a bit of an issue that we had in the game where it typically happened when you target swap during an attack, right? So if that you would dodge in the game in relation to where your camera was facing. So if your camera was like, if you were seeing yourself and you would dodge to the left, like if your controller you did left and dodge, then you would dodge to the right because you would move in relation, you would dodge in relation to the camera. So they made like some super really weird situations. Sometimes you would try to back dodge and you would front dodge and like all sorts of weird things. So we've actually addressed this, so we're no longer in those sticky situations. That was not the easiest one to do. Yeah, so basically dodging is no longer based on camera orientation, but it's based on player input. So right now, if you hold left and you dodge, your character should always dodge to the left, or to the right, or whatever direction you were holding. The important thing to know is that this should be fixed for pretty much everything, but there might still be some dodge attacks that might have issues with like targeting. If you do experience those, please report them and we'll look into them, make sure we're going to be fixing them. But overall, this issue should be really fixed and it works so much better. I remember, Ben, I don't know if you want to recall when the first time you tried it out, how happy you were.
This is low-key the best change, like since release. This is the best fix. Like people don't even realize how frustrated they are at sticky dodge. I think, like they think, oh shit, why did I not dodge in the right direction? This game is bugged, and they didn't even realize like there was like a game-wide thing, right? And now it's fixed. So it's like mad props to this. It's so much more fun to play the game now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, amazing stuff. I mean, great job to everybody on the Forerunner team. All these things it's amazing to see. So we got what? We got one more before we get into the testing ground, I think.
Benjamin's getting excited over here.
Yeah. So I like at the start. I don't know if you guys noticed, but it said crashing charge improvement. So we made it better, right? So now when you hit someone, you teleport to the nearest ledge and they explode into a glory of guts. So yeah, it's not an improvement, it's a nerf because this move is crazy. So first off, when you get someone with crashing charge as the Warlord, it's no longer a case of even if a catapult hits you, you're still gonna get thrown off the ledge. Now there is reaction when someone hits you. There's no super armor. There's no complete invincibility going on anymore. So that's the first thing. Secondly, you could crashing charge into a wall, let someone go, hits the wall, you go back into unlock, you run, and you crash and charge him again, into the wall again. He has no stamina. Alt F4, I don't know, the game's over. It's really annoying. So,
you mean ledge afterwards too? I don't know.
yeah,
like Solo Infinite, like getting someone to a ledge from 40,000 miles away.
There's a notorious video that we watched where it's like the guy is like full stamina, gets hit on the wall like 2 times, has no stamina, gets unbalanced. The Warlord eats an ice cream cone, runs at him, boom, unbalanced again, a little quick selfie or anything, and then he just does this again until he reaches the ledge and the guy just dies, and it was the saddest thing ever. So now crashing charge no longer unbalances people that are out of stamina. So now you should no longer be having infinites with crashing charge. It's still a great move in itself, but I feel like we removed all of the really overwhelming elements of the move. So here's hoping that meets our players' expectations.
We've slowed it down a bit, right?
We slowed it down a bit. It was, I think, 700 ms. Now it's 600 ms. So it's on par with the new Stampede charge, basically.
Yeah, so both end up at 6 at this point instead of 5, which we tested, I think, Raider on in testing ground. So that's super cool. I think less solo infinites is always good. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the Dominion series with possibly the strongest character or very close to it taking this nerf.
Yeah, Warlord's a crazy meta pick, so
yeah,
it's interesting.
Crashing charge was a bit frustrating, so I'm happy that we're kind of making some changes to it. And I also like that you mentioned Dominion, because now this is the perfect segment. I was getting ahead of myself earlier. Now let's talk about the new testing grounds, which will be running from September 16th to September 30th. Again, we will also have a Shinobi V2 version in this round of testing grounds, which we will get into in a little bit. But let's go ahead and start off from the top and talk about we're going to talk about some of the Dominion game mode changes, which I kind of mentioned earlier or briefly, because
I think we're starting with Shinobi, dude. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
we are, unfortunately. But I'm honored by your excitement.
I'm very excited, actually. But yeah, no, let's start with Shinobi. The first round, we definitely did see like a lot of positive reactions from the community. There are a couple of things that they are looking to see kind of improved on and tweaked a little bit. But let's go ahead and dive right into it. What do we have?
So yeah, so Shinobi was actually pretty well received, despite like some hate for some people. The idea being that like Shinobi was a bit too strong, partially due to some bugs that we've addressed, but also because of some like other weirdo issues with some stuff that we're gonna go into a little bit deeper. The other issue that Shinobi's had was that his openers were not viable enough. Namely, dodge for a kick was not as strong as it should be for a lot of different reasons. And Shinobi also suffered from some input leniency problems. I'm happy I can pronounce that correctly. Yeah, so we've made some changes to that as well. All right, so let's get to it.
We're going to talk about wall splat eventually, right?
Yeah. Wall splat.
All right.
A lot of wall splat.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's a bug, not a feature.
Yeah. So we've removed bleed from Shinobi entirely. I know some people are going to be disappointed. Oh, I like that my Shinobi would make people bleed, but there's a lot of good coming from removing bleed, right? So we remove bleed damage from Sickle Rain, from Shadow Strike, and from Teleport. But all these attacks now deal direct damage. So Shadow Strike, which is the light parry punish, deals 18, and Teleport now deals 24 upfront. I think people are going to be super excited about that. Bleeding there didn't make much sense anyway, and it's also a lot easier to balance, and it feels better when your damage comes in right away. Like, you do lose a little bit of synergy with like Nobushi or Shaman or whatever, but at the end of the day, like Shinobi did not need that. And this is also kind of a bit of an adjustment, because Revenge is not affected by bleeding. So if you bleed somebody, it doesn't feed them extra revenge. This now does. So it has an effect on when you actually land Sickle Rain, you're not going to be able to do it infinitely and go, I can never pop revenge. So that's
that free Predator's Mercy, man. I'm going to miss
it.
it.
I know. Shaman is Steph's baby. So.
No bias.
So Sickle Rain, right? So we did a couple of changes to Sickle Rain as well. It's no longer accessible after a guard break. We had initially done that change to kind of have the same feeling as you had when you did a ranged guard break. You can go to a Sickle Rain immediately. And also made Shinobi super threatening whenever you did like feint the guard breaks and stuff. But it was honestly a bit too strong. So we removed that direct link immediately. You still get heavy.
Some roads go to Sickle Rain. Not all roads though.
Not some of those rules have deviated to other outlets.
Right. Now deals also 20 damage up front and 3 per stab, so for a total of 29. Damage is a bit on the low side for a heavy finisher, but it pins you for so long that it makes total sense. You still get free heavies from allies and stuff, and that's pretty good. It also no longer ignores pinning rules. That was an issue that Shinobi on live right now, as some people have seen in videos and stuff, actually still has, but because Sickle Rain was so much more easily available, it was super apparent. So now you can't have a Shigoki, for example, do a Demon's Embrace on somebody and then have a random Shinobi just Sickle Rain you out of it and still pin you. So that's also a really big change. And it also no longer drains stamina. It used to drain 30 stamina when it landed. It was done in a bit of a weird, janky way. So that's all been removed. So Sickle Rain should be a lot healthier now. And it's still a very strong tool. It's still a super good ganking tool. Still pins for a long period of time. Still really easily accessible. And the changes from the previous testing grounds are still in, right? So it's still unblockable from top, undodgeable from sides, all that good stuff. So that should still it's a change. It makes it a little worse, but it's still a very good move. Next up, we have ranged heavies. Oh my god! So yeah, it was interesting, right? Because the wall splat was granted a bit too strong, mostly because you got free Sickle Rains afterwards. I think that was the source of a lot of frustration. But on top of it, the other issue that people had with it was that you could target swap it. And we had intentionally done that target swap, right? So you could actually be good with a Shinobi in a group fight. And let's say you start with somebody, you kick them, target swap, throw out a range heavy at somebody, go back on your main target, roll, and do all that sort of good stuff. And that felt really good. But the problem was that you could still get an off-screen, relatively highly damaging bash that you could not see coming at all. So because of that, we removed the target swapping from range heavy. You can still target swap the front roll though. So you can still go on a single target, dodge kick into range heavy, target swap, roll, and it's still gonna work. But that's it. It was a little bit too frustrating for players. So we removed the target swap from it. And because we removed the target swap from it, it no longer made sense for that range heavy to be accessible after a backflip. Because you can just it was so easy to dodge that it made zero sense to use it. Right. So the main purpose of having it after a backflip was to target swap it. So because we removed it, it made no sense really to have it there.
It sounds like it'll be a lot less, not really spammy, but I guess just frustrating, just constantly just getting splatted.
Yeah, exactly,
yeah,
right.
For sure.
The other reason too is that you'll see where there's some changes to backflip too that also make a lot of sense in that regard. Now it's input leniency. Oh, I did it good again. So we adjusted, usually say comfort, but I gotta be fancy today. So we adjusted it a little bit on front roll follow-ups and on shadow strike. So front roll, a lot of people didn't seem to kind of grasp where we were going with it, which is fine. That's my mistake. But the idea was that you would front roll and you had a huge window to buffer your follow-ups, whether it was the flip kick or Sickle Rain. But because that window felt a bit unnatural, people didn't really take to it, and they would typically hit the buttons late, and then the wrong thing would come out. So we've actually made the input window a bit longer, so you can actually do flip kick and Sickle Rain a bit later after you do a front roll. I have to warn you though, if you don't buffer it, it might not be as strong against players who early dodge it, but at least the comfort's going to be there and it's going to be good to play as, and it makes sense. The other thing we did was for Shadow Strike, the window we had to actually use a Shadow Strike was so tiny. Ben remembers this when we were doing Centurion there. We had some super small input windows, so it's now much bigger. It's a lot easier to land a Shadow Strike and go into your mix-ups when you manage to parry. So that also feels good. Yeah. Okay, front roll and backflip. So we've done a couple of changes to those as well, so that they feel more like they're dodges, right? So they now have iframes are for 300 milliseconds on front and back. I think backflip having iframes is one of the things that people have been claiming for the longest time since we lowered range that it had before you were like it would go back for so far that it was kind of crazy. But with this, at least like you're able to avoid attacks with it. That's pretty good. But they no longer have guard break vulnerability. Invulnerability rather. Sorry, that's a bit of a typo there. So you can get guard broken when you're doing a front roll or a backflip. So the idea is that it's more like a dodge, like I said. So you have to be a bit more careful when you use them, but you're still you should be able to avoid attacks with it, which is kind of like more what dodges do. Backflip also now can be accessed after most attacks on hit, block, and miss. Back to how it is on live, pretty much. So you can people that miss doing a light backflip, you can now do it if you want. Although you're not really going to get a range heavy afterwards. So, but that's part of why we also removed the range heavies after backflip. Is that since you can now backflip on command on a bunch of things, it doesn't make a lot of sense to be able to just off-screen backflip into a range heavy too simple, right? But with this, what's interesting is that it gives Shinobi a lot of options to avoid dodge attacks and to be able to be a bit more mobile when he's playing. So that should really help him out. And last but not least, front roll has extra forward movement. Some of the feedback we got from some players was that they like to be able to target swap front roll, but it didn't go further enough. So you would just like target swap front roll, and Shinobi would be like, "Oh, what's a roll?" And then he would just like roll in place. Kind of
what's that?
What's that, right? So it would just like do a barrel roll in front and you wouldn't go anywhere. So that didn't really work well. So we had those changes as well for those two moves. And then finally, this mostly affects dodges and double dodges. So we removed the ability of double dodge to dodge backwards. That was still a problem. We got a lot of feedback from players at higher levels that saying, look, Shinobi is still so slippery that I can't do anything about him because he still just does side dodge, back dodge, side dodge, back dodge. So that felt really bad. So we removed that completely. So Shinobi can't just run away from opponents as easily as he could before. But double dodge can now access openers like you can on live right now. So you can do side double dodge into a light or into a heavy and get those options back. We had to remove them because they felt a little bit weird to have on those double dodges, but a lot of players said that they were actually really useful and were using them, so we put them back in. Another thing that we're trying out is that front dodge kick. You can now do it at 200 ms from front dodge, and you can delay it up until 500, compared to before where it was 300. So that's a test we're also doing to see if it actually helps, because we know that when it's at 100, it's super strong, and at 300, depending on what the character can do. So some characters that have like dodge for like light or heavy options, for like Zanhu, for example, you can't just go, oh, I see any type of red and I dodge and I beat everything. So with this, hopefully it's going to be a bit harder to react to, and at especially high levels, it should have a bit more viability. And the last thing we did was that double dodge now costs 6 stamina. We had removed the cost on it because it was like, okay, well, we want to have Shinobi to be more mobile and stuff. But again, people were like spamming double dodges and like running circles around people nonstop. It's kind of cool, but at the same time, we don't want people to be able to just infinitely dodge. And also because the double dodge grants a second deflect attempt, right? You kind of have to have some sort of small cost to pay to be able to have that sort of strength, but it's still pretty strong. That's it for Shinobi changes.
That's awesome. All right, now before we start showing off the Dominion changes, I took a little gander. Let's see what we're doing to Dominion. Now, mind you, this is for the testing grounds. It's not going live right away, so definitely once this testing grounds goes live, go ahead and give us your feedback. But Stefan, I need to ask you, what was the reasoning behind wanting to kind of tweak Dominion a little bit and kind of do what we're doing with Dominion? I don't want to spoil it, so
I guess I'll spoil it a little bit then. Basically, with Dominion, there's a couple of problems that we experience in the game right now. Like one, how predictable is it from game to game? Like, when are you getting your feats unlocked? When are the renown bonuses coming? There's a number of renown bonuses. You'll know Ace. You'll know some other ones that are like, they happen at pretty unpredictable times, let's say. Like, either you'll get it and suddenly your team will be rocking, or you won't and your team will be losing. And the other one I can sum up in a nutshell that I think everyone can relate to is like, I'm an assassin and I either got my tier 4 in like 3 minutes, or I never got even out of my tier like 1 and 2 the whole game, even though I dominated. It's quite
Dominion, I get it.
yes, exactly. It's quite feast or famine for especially for assassins, and so we're trying to smooth this out a little bit. And I'll let Benjamin, I think, hit the real notes, but I think that's a high level.
Awesome.
Too late. You spoiled it.
I spoiled all the good stuff. Sorry.
You just spoiled it.
all right, Benjamin, walk us through the changes that we are bringing to Dominion on the testing grounds, because it's I don't like graphs or weird things like this with multicolors and letters and numbers. So explain this to me as easily as possible.
Yeah. Okay, for sure. But still, take out your monster or something, because you're gonna be hearing me talk over graphs for a while.
Or drinks.
So yeah, first off,
Sorry,
for sure.
like-
So we're doing a huge thing to Dominion, right? It's very scary for us because it's our most favorite mode. It's our most popular. So we are doing definitely a testing ground on this, and we're going to be needing your feedback. So please go play this thing a lot so that we can look at the data, and then figure out where we go from here. So here we go. So first off, the thing that Steph just spoiled for us is that yes, Vanguard, Assassin, Heavy, Hybrid, doesn't matter. You kill someone, you're going to get the same amount of renown. You contest a zone, you're going to get the same amount of renown per minute. You kill a minion and you're an assassin, you're not going to be like, I'm getting half the renown than everyone else. No, everyone now gets the same amount of renown. So that's the thing that we expect everyone is going to be on board with. Like, they're gonna love this.
100%.
You mean I can lane as an Orochi now? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you can be an Orochi laner if you want. Do light, heavy, and 2 zones and be out of stamina. I think no. Honestly, he's still probably gonna be a bad laner, but at least he's not gonna feel as bad doing it. We also kind of standardized the renown values of doing the actions in Dominion. So if you look at the top, for example, on the hero kills, hey, go back, Marks, go back. Okay, all right. So yeah, if you look at the hero kills, you'll see that in the TG on the right is the values that you're going to be having on the testing grounds. It's at 20. It looks like we're doubling the amount of renown for each kill. But what this is not saying is that we have removed basically all of the special snowflake rewards that you got for getting hero kills. So basically, whenever you made a kill, you didn't get, for example, if you're an assassin, if you didn't get just 11, you got 11 minus a value because you were doing a dishonorable fight in a 3v1. But maybe you got some renown for killing the guy that just killed you, and maybe some other renown for doing an execution. So this is what Stefan was saying earlier. It made things very, very, very confusing for us. It made it confusing for you, and so we decided to scrap most of them. So now what you're seeing on screen right now is basically all the renown sources in Dominion now. That is all, except 3 of them, which are Revenge, Streak Breaker, and Comeback. So when you get killed a bunch of times and you get a kill, you'll get a renown bonus. When you break someone's streak, you get a bonus. And when you kill whoever killed you, you'll get a bonus. So what you'll be seeing here is that we're kind of encouraging these comeback mechanics, basically. If we go down the list a bit, you'll see as well that defense zones, the notorious defense zone, has been completely killed. So now what it used to happen is if you were a Vanguard and you killed someone in your capture zone, every friend that was in the capture zone got 25 renown, including yourself. So you can understand that at high level, people might not want to go take that other guy's zone when the whole team is in there, because you might be giving like 100 renown to the other team like super easily. So we just axed it completely. So it's not there anymore. Otherwise, you'll see that the contest and the boosting zone values have been changed. I'll let you do the math on that one, but basically we want you to be contesting zones more, and boosting zones less. So really, this is also that people feel more encouraged to go get the opposing zones. All right, now Max, you may go forward unless JC and Stefan have some comments on this one.
I mean, honestly, I'm psyched that I can play assassins now and not have to rely on getting a million kills to get my feet. So that's, I gotta say, we've been playing this a while internally, and it felt so much better.
Yeah,
And as you say, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say that just like the standardization of like renown is it's nice. I've seen a couple threads and players kind of talking about that. So congratulations, there you go.
Yeah. Let's not mention that Breach has been doing it for years, but it's fine. So live, as you can see on the left, you'll see that you get your feed 1 at 58, feed 2 at 155, feed 3 at 265, and feed 4 at 335. These felt very arbitrary to us. Like no one really understands anymore why these values are so weird. So first off, we made them more standardized, and we also made it so if you get to your feed 3, you won't accidentally get your feed 4 at the same time, because the gap between feed 4 and feed 3 is super small. So now you get a progression going forward. So feed 1, 2, 3, and 4 are progressively longer and harder to get. And we've also raised the cap at which you get feed 4 to 360, so that we can more freely add some renowned sources in the game without necessarily making everyone get their feed 4 way too fast. So that's it for that.
The funny thing about this one is it seems like actually it's going to be harder to unlock feats, but in reality it turns out not to be, because of the way we've redistributed the points. And I mean, especially when you get your feed 2 and your feed 3 a little more predictably, you can use them to get your kills for your feed 4. So I think you'll find when you play, try it out a few times and see what you think, but I think you'll find you'll hit that 4 a little more reliably.
Definitely. All right, next, the zone capture speed changes. So as you know, if there's one person on a capture zone, it's going to take 5.5 seconds for him to capture the zone. But if a dead ball comes in, it takes 0.9 seconds. So good luck countering a dead ball coming into your zone and capturing a zone. So we scrapped that whole concept, and we are trying to see what happens if, no matter how many players are in the zone, it's always going to take 5.5 seconds to capture. So really what we're aiming to be doing here is making capturing a zone feel more like a commitment, and to allow more of a counterplay when you see two guys kind of walking into your zone and you're just like a little far. You will have time to reach the zone and prevent them from capturing, getting renown, and turning the tides. So I think that's a very interesting change on those.
Yeah.
Next slide, please. Sorry.
No, it's okay. What's interesting here is that, like, I know I've been talking to a lot of pro players, and they're telling me that typically what they do at the start of a match is that they have one player go to their home point, and then the other 3 start roaming. They go into the lane and they start to do a bunch of different things. So that shouldn't really affect at super high level how this plays, but it should also help players that are starting to go, okay, well, we're going to send one person to our first point, because we don't need to send 2 or 3 or 4 people there anymore. And it kind of helps with that. And also what I think what we're hoping to happen is that when you have like 3 or 4 people, if you're trying to go contest your opponent's home point, and then you get there, you start capping it, or something happens where they kill you, and they have to you manage to cap it, they come back, they kill you, it's not going to get instantly retaken. So that makes a huge difference in giving your team time to come back, like you were saying, and try to get it back, and try to have that little back and forth between there to kind of encourage playing more into capturing zones and that sort of stuff, rather than just, I'm going to keep my home point and then just go in the lane and just lane forever and just rotate between, home and B and all the time. So I think that should be really interesting.
Yeah, and then like when we kind of like made the changes about, and you were kind of mentioning you want people to kind of contest zones more with the amount of players on the zone not really mattering. It just allows you to have more time to get to like a certain point to contest it. So I think that's really nice. That's a really nice change. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yep. And to finish it up, we have some changes to the hard points So these are the points that you need to win a Dominion game. If you look on the left, you'll see that when you were controlling a minion lane, you would get 1.35 points per second. But if you're controlling one of the capture zones, you would get 0.75, which is laughable. Like really, it's just really bad compared to the minion lane. And don't forget that while you're controlling the minion lane, you can still kill minions. Minions which give you hard points as well. So really, there's no contesting that the minion lane was the place to be, the biggest source of hard points, as well as the biggest source of renown, because killing minions also gives you renown. So what we're doing here is really lowering massively the worth of controlling a minion lane to be the same as controlling a zone, and we've raised the worth of controlling a capture zone. Boosting a zone, we've left mostly alone because we feel the value was already quite high. But this way, we want to try to see, like, what if all 3 points kind of had more of a balance of like, okay, so the minion lane isn't necessarily the end all be all place to be for hard points. So we want people to kind of consider all 3 points and kind of spread out more in a game. And really, that's about it. So as I said, we're going to be going to testing ground with this. We're going to be looking at the data, and we are fully committed to keep going at this until players are mostly satisfied with the values we'll be bringing, and our hope is to make the game more balanced. So stick with us, help us with data, and hopefully we'll make Dominion more fun for y'all.
Yeah, and there's a reason why it's 2 weeks too, right? Is that we want to give players a lot of time to be able to play in that mode. And I think because it's Dominion, my hope at least is that everybody is going to be playing testing grounds instead of playing the regular playlist, just because, well, you're playing Dominion anyway, so why not go into testing grounds instead, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's an opportune time to do it. Does anyone have any final thoughts? Because we did go through a lot. So if anyone has any final
everything that I just mentioned is going to be in the blog post when it's out. So there's going to be a huge detail of these same graphs with some developers' comments that summarize everything that I just talked about.
We have the same for Shinobi and for the other changes as well. You can look for a blog post. Should be really interesting. And like I said before, feedback is super important. We look through it. Like, I know people don't believe it there, but I spend probably too much time on Reddit looking at like all the feedback I can get there. A bit on Twitter, a bit on the official forums as well. But like anything you say, and don't forget the survey as well. Like, we look at everything. But don't think that we don't listen. We're not looking at stuff or whatever. We're like on the prowl, hardcore for when the testing grounds are happening. I tend to stay up late and read Reddit too much, so that's not good for my health, but it's good for the game.
Yeah, like 60% of my job, it requires me to talk to players and gather feedback. So please give me something to do. I would very much appreciate it. But Stefan, JC, Benjamin, thank you much for joining the show today. For the quick TLDR for those who may not want to watch the whole thing, Raider, Orochi, option select changes. These are coming with the launch of Tempest on September 9th. Then Shinobi V2, all the changes to Dominion will be in the testing grounds second week, September 16th, all the way to the 30th. And as these fine gentlemen have mentioned, definitely go ahead and send us your feedback and give us all of that awesome, recommendations, anything you like, you don't like, what you want to see changed. The survey as well, definitely go ahead and check that out. And